There is no way.
He has no use for Harry and Meghan, nor should he, because they've been terrible to him.
This entire strange enterprise is baffling and surely doomed to fail.
She definitely has collateral on Harry.
At some point, don't we just have to draw a line?
There is absolutely no way that Prince William would be letting this happen if she was not blackmailing him.
There's no way Prince William would be staying this quiet unless something's seriously wrong behind the scenes. That's the conclusion some royal insiders are now quietly drawing, as whispers of blackmail explode across the royal sphere. The name at the center of it all? Meghan Markle. Again.
There is no way. Meghan Markle deserves to be at Charles's funeral. She accused him of being a racist, for God's sake.
The allegation is simple and chilling, that Meghan holds leverage over Harry. Real, documented, devastating leverage. Enough to keep him in line. Enough to keep the palace on its toes. One source didn't mince words. They claim there's something Epsteinesque in nature. Files, footage, private hotel recordings perhaps. Nothing confirmed, but the fear? Palpable. And the reaction? Silence. Which in this family speaks volumes.
There is some sort of Epsteinesque thing going on, that she has video, pictures, whatever.
It gets even more disturbing. Allegedly, Meghan has already tipped off the palace that if she's crossed, if the firm turns on her one more time, that insurance will surface. She doesn't even have to release anything. All it takes is the suggestion that something exists, and according to insiders, she's done just enough to make that suggestion land. Kensington may not know what's in the files, but they believe something is, and that's enough to stop even the most vocal from speaking out.
And she has told this to the palace, and she's like, if you guys cross me, then I'm gonna release it.
And then there's Harry, stuck. Some say willingly, others say he's a prisoner of circumstance, emotionally exhausted, isolated, and outmatched. Supporters of the firm are now flipping the old narrative on its head. Harry once claimed William was trapped inside the monarchy, but look again, who's really trapped now? Who looks lost in interviews, anxious at podiums, detached at events? One British commentator said it bluntly, if Meghan didn't have serious collateral, there's no way William would let this continue, because this isn't just about public pettiness anymore. Meghan launching a rosé line on Diana's birthday wasn't a gaffe. It was a line crossed, a sacred date, commercialized, and William allegedly fuming behind closed doors. So why no pushback? Why no statement? Why no royal correction or subtle shade? Maybe because Meghan made it clear, don't test me. And yet even with all that swirling beneath the surface, one palace insider claims the tension only truly erupted when William found out how Diana's legacy was being used, and the detail that set him off next. That's where it all starts unraveling.
Harry could be spiraling so far down the drain that this is the last resort.
Prince William was never the type to lash out, not publicly, not even in private, unless you were part of the inner circle and saw what it took to push him to that breaking point. But according to sources close to the palace, that point came and went the moment he learned Meghan had timed her wine launch to his mother's birthday, the very day that still makes the air shift in Kensington, the day no one forgets, the day Diana died. And that's what's got insiders shaking, because it wasn't just poor taste, it wasn't just another Sussex stunt. According to veteran royal reporter Kinsey Schofield, William was deeply upset and disgusted by the decision. Her source said it plainly, it wasn't lost on William that the launch of a luxury alcohol product was dropped on the birthday of a woman who died in an alcohol-related crash. He viewed it as a betrayal, not just from Meghan, but from Harry.
It's not lost on Prince William that Meghan has launched an alcohol brand on his mother's birthday, the very mum he lost in a drink driving tragedy.
The optics are appalling. A pink wine with Diana-esque branding, marketed with Meghan's usual performative poise, posted across channels with flowery captions and aesthetic filters on the very day their family should be mourning quietly, reflecting. Instead, it became a marketing hook, a headline, a launch day. And to Prince William, it was a calculated slap in the face. Because here's what most people don't know. In the months after Diana's passing, William and Harry made a pact, a real, personal, unbreakable promise that they would never use their mother's name or image to profit, especially not on her birthday, especially not on the anniversary of her death, that they would protect her legacy with every ounce of dignity they had left. William, to this day, has never broken it. Harry, sources say he's trampled over it more times than William can count. And what hurt most, according to people close to the situation, wasn't just that Meghan used Diana's memory for a product launch, it's that Harry let her. Because if Meghan's business plan relies on weaponizing royal imagery, on twisting symbols of grief into glossy branding, then William can barely stomach what that means for the woman who raised him.
There are reports that Meghan, who wears Diana's jewelry constantly, is fixated on her as well. I believe in Tom Bower's book, he says it's her objective to be Diana 2.0.
Absolutely.
He hates it, one insider emphasized. And yes, I mean hates. He hates her for it. It's not a word used lightly in those halls, but in this case, it may be the most honest one. Still, William didn't go public. He didn't issue a counter message or call it out in a press leak. And that's where the speculation deepens. Because why wouldn't he? Why wouldn't the palace fight back if the line had been so blatantly crossed? Unless, of course, they can't. Unless they know Meghan has something. Something that could burn far more than a product launch. And if that's true, if silence is the price of self-preservation, then what else is the firm quietly tolerating? Because according to several commentators, this wasn't just a PR misstep. It was a trigger, and the storm it kicked up inside palace walls hasn't even begun to settle. So what exactly is Meghan holding? That's the million-dollar question turning whisper networks into wildfire. No one inside the palace will say it outright. But the fear? You can feel it in how tight-lipped everyone suddenly becomes. Even people who used to leak with ease now speak in cautious fragments. Phrases like potential exposure, sensitive material, and undeniable proof get tossed around, but no one ever finishes the sentence. And that silence might be the loudest clue of all.
At some point, don't we just have to draw a line under constantly bringing this woman back into the fold?
According to one senior media strategist who worked with the Sussexes early on, Meghan is believed to have created an insurance file long before Megxit was official, a kind of digital safety net allegedly compiled across phones, iCloud drives, and encrypted folders. It wouldn't just contain text messages. We're talking videos, audio, potentially footage from luxury hotel security cameras, maybe even recordings from inside the couple's Montecito estate, private arguments, emotional breakdowns, family conversations that were never supposed to leave the room. And here's the thing, this theory didn't come out of nowhere. It traces back to how tightly Meghan controlled her own narrative. From the Oprah interview to the Netflix docuseries, every word, every cut, every facial expression was curated. And sources now say that level of control may not have been limited to public storytelling. It may have extended into private protection. One well-placed source described it like this: she's not bluffing. She doesn't need to say what she has. Just the implication is enough. It's like everyone knows she's holding a grenade. They just don't know if the pin is still in. Even those who have worked in media for decades admit they've never seen the palace this cautious. And it's not just about Harry anymore. If this alleged material shows other royals, William, Charles, Camilla, in vulnerable or compromising moments, that's a media bloodbath. That's reputational ruin. That's a constitutional crisis waiting to happen. Because one leak, just one, could shatter what's left of the monarchy's carefully polished image. And while critics love to dismiss this as a conspiracy theory, the reaction inside royal circles says otherwise.
Not, no, hell no. Those vile creatures must be forever marginalized.
There's a strange stillness in the air, like everyone is holding their breath. There are no denials, no casual rebuttals, no sarcastic palace press statements, brushing it all off. Just a silence that stretches too long to be innocent. It's why even Meghan's harshest detractors admit she may be playing a dangerous but brilliant long game. She doesn't need to be liked, she just needs to be feared, and if her enemies are scared to push back, she's already won. But as one former royal aide pointed out, when someone has that kind of leverage, they rarely stop at subtlety. They test boundaries, push further, and Meghan's next moves, insiders say, are already making certain staffers brace for something much bigger. Because if the vault really does exist, the question isn't whether she'll use it, it's when. If Meghan's sitting on a vault, then Harry is the one still locked inside it. And lately, you don't even need insider access to see he's unraveling. It's happening in plain sight, on stage, in interviews, even in casual moments when the mask slips. The man who once stood firm beside his brother, proud in uniform, now often looks like a ghost of that prince. Hollow-eyed, detached, like he's there, but not really present. You can trace it back through every awkward public appearance since that Netflix series dropped. The tension in his shoulders, the glazed-over answers, that one rambling speech at the mental health summit where he veered off topic, almost forgot the question, and kept rubbing the back of his neck. Something's off, and the people closest to him, those who still care, see it clearly. That's why the quiet shift in James Holt's online activity has tongues wagging. Holt, a longtime loyalist to Meghan and Harry's Arcuel brand, suddenly began liking posts connected to William's inner circle. Subtle, easily missed, but not by royal watchers.
She definitely has collateral on Harry.
Not by the press, and definitely not by people who used to work with him. One theory, Holt knows Harry is spiraling, that he needs help, that whatever arrangement he's stuck in with Meghan isn't sustainable, but Holt also knows better than to confront Meghan directly, so he sends a signal, quietly, passively, I'm still here, I haven't forgotten. Or maybe it's something even bolder. I want out too, because no matter how polished the Sussex PR machine tries to be, cracks are showing, and the biggest one might be Harry himself. Some observers have described his current state as emotionally sedated, suggesting a man who's numbing just to keep functioning. That could mean prescription meds, or it could mean something worse. On podcasts, insiders now openly speculate that Harry has been managed, kept docile, distracted, overworked, or overmedicated. And while no one is confirming anything, the signs are stacking up. Erratic behavior, rumors of addiction, whispers of behind-the-scenes interventions that never stuck, and always, that strange disconnect in his eyes, like he's trapped in someone else's life. It's why some have stopped calling Meghan his partner and started calling her his handler. And then there's the darker possibility that this isn't just about emotional control, that Harry knows what Meghan has, that he's seen the footage, heard the audio, read the transcripts, and that he understands exactly how much damage it could do, not just to his family, but to him. So he stays, maybe out of guilt, maybe out of fear, maybe because deep down he believes he deserves whatever fallout's coming. But people close to the palace are now beginning to worry out loud, not just about optics, not just about headlines, but about Harry's health, his safety, his ability to make clear decisions. Because if the theory is true, and Meghan's leverage is real, then Harry's silence isn't noble, it's survival. And now Queen Camilla has reportedly stepped in, not to help him but to protect the crown from what he might do next.
There is absolutely no way that Prince William would be letting this happen if she was not blackmailing him.
While Harry stumbles through public appearances and royal chaos brews beneath the surface, someone else has started tightening the bolts behind palace doors. Queen Camilla, and if you think she's staying silent out of sympathy for Harry, think again. Camilla has seen enough scandal for 10 lifetimes. She knows what unchecked emotion, loose lips, and personal vendettas can do to the monarchy. And according to multiple insiders, she's made a call. Harry is now a threat, not a son. King Charles's health has taken a sharp downturn. That much is clear from his limited engagements, guarded public appearances, and the increasingly somber tone from royal commentators. Though the palace remains vague, calling it manageable, Lady Colin Campbell went further, stating plainly that the king is battling incurable cancer. That changes everything. Because when a monarch is this ill, the stakes shift. Succession becomes more than ceremony. It becomes strategy. And in that high-stakes environment, Queen Camilla is allegedly building a wall, a real one, around the king's daily life, not just to limit physical stress, but to control access. And top of that restricted list, Prince Harry. Sources say Harry's calls are no longer going directly to his father. Communications are now filtered, monitored, sometimes flat-out blocked. And Meghan's attempts to contact senior courtiers met with silence. Some insiders believe that Camilla made the decision unilaterally after what she saw as a final betrayal. Harry and Meghan's decision to weaponize grief, branding rosé on Diana's birthday, and forcing Charles to answer questions at a time when he can barely hold down solid food. And it's not just emotional stress that concerns her. Palace insiders hint that Camilla is genuinely worried about what Harry might leak in moments of instability, whether out of spite, pressure from Meghan, or even something darker. If Harry says the wrong thing, or sends the wrong email, it could be catastrophic. That's why behind the scenes, a quiet network of legal advisors and crisis consultants has allegedly been reactivated, not to guide reconciliation, to prepare for rupture. And let's not forget, Camilla is no stranger to palace warfare. She lived through decades of press hatred, Charles's infamy, and Diana's shadow. She understands better than anyone that survival at court often depends on knowing when to close ranks. And right now, those ranks are sealed tight. It's why some former aides say the firm isn't plotting revenge, they're plotting containment. Charles is sick, William is furious, and Harry, he's seen as a liability too big to manage.
And Meghan Markle has this fascination and obsession, with Princess Diana.
And too dangerous to let loose. Camilla's reported solution is simple: distance, silence, and legal firewalls. And if it sounds cold, consider this: when the future of the crown is on the line, sentiment is the first thing to go. But Meghan, she's not backing down, not even close. In fact, her next product release is rumored to be linked to another royal date, and palace staff are already bracing for the backlash. Critics are calling it grief marketing, and for once the term seems to be sticking. Meghan's new wine rosé, delicate branding, $30 a bottle, wasn't just poorly timed. It was perfectly timed for maximum impact on Diana's birthday, tied to the memory of a woman who died in an alcohol-related crash. If that sounds harsh, that's because it is. But insiders claim this is exactly the kind of brutal brand math Meghan has mastered, because this isn't about wine, it's about narrative, headlines, symbolism, the emotional jolt that guarantees social media attention, column inches, and most importantly, sales. Meghan's business, critics argue, doesn't rely on the strength of the product. It thrives on the reaction. The more outrage she generates, the more traction she gets. And when the product is thin, the story has to be thick. But here's what most people don't realize. Meghan's entire financial model may now depend on controversy. According to 2 former Netflix brand consultants, the margins on these products, white-labeled goods, private-label deals, basic wine relabeled for luxury markup, are razor thin. She's not selling Chateau Prestige, she's selling perception, a branded fantasy. And when fantasy isn't enough, pain sells better. One entertainment insider said flatly, she has to keep poking the bear, because otherwise, there's no buzz, no sales, no relevance. Everything depends on the next outrage. That's why the Diana date wasn't an accident. It was a calculation, and it worked. Social media exploded, critics raged, but fans, some loyal, some just curious, clicked the link, shared the story, and debated the drama. Every angry royalist, free marketing, every emotional headline, another bottle sold. That's why Meghan's next launch is already sparking panic. Rumors are swirling that she plans to drop her next product, possibly a fragrance or a skincare item, on the date of a royal wedding anniversary. Not hers, someone else's. And insiders say Kensington is already strategizing how to not respond because they know responding only amplifies the narrative she's banking on. Even the nickname is catching on, Meghan Markle. Not just a dig at price tags, but at the way every emotional moment, every family tie, every sacred date becomes part of the product line. As one British tabloid sniped, "You're not buying rosé, you're buying rebellion." And that's the tightrope she's walking. The more she weaponizes the royal brand, the more fragile her own credibility becomes. One false step, one failed launch, and the illusion crumbles. But for now, it's working, just enough.
And we've also heard from folks that Meghan Markle allegedly said that Diana came to her when she was doing yoga and would speak to her in her dreams, and she feels she's just really connected cosmically to Princess Diana.
Still, palace sources say William was especially shaken by one private revelation. Meghan had allegedly planned the launch date months in advance, long before Charles's diagnosis, long before Harry's latest spiral, meaning this wasn't reactive, it was mapped. And William took that as confirmation of something he suspected all along. She's not out of control. She's in control, calculated, cold, and dangerously focused. But outside the palace, another kind of wall is closing in. Because Hollywood, once eager to embrace the Sussex brand, isn't buying the fantasy anymore. There was a time when Meghan and Harry couldn't step foot in Los Angeles without drawing cameras, invitations, and breathless buzz. They were the royal rebels turned California royalty, the glamorous underdogs with a Netflix deal, Spotify money, and a direct line to Oprah. But that time? Long gone. Now, Meghan can't even get into the room. It started slowly, less red carpet, fewer high-profile sightings, but insiders say the shift was deliberate. Meghan and Harry didn't opt out of Hollywood. They were quietly phased out, and the final blow may have come with the Bezos-Sanchez wedding, where everyone who's anyone showed up except them. It wasn't just that they weren't invited, it was that their absence was so loud. Lauren Sanchez once took photos with Meghan's mom. They had mingled with Kim Kardashian, Kris Jenner, Corey Gamble. That circle was supposed to be their in, but at the biggest A-list power wedding of the year, they weren't even a consideration. And according to comedian Tim Dillon, who actually lives in the LA elite scene, they're not just being snubbed, they're actively avoided. In one viral podcast episode, Dillon claimed Hollywood hosts get direct calls from the Sussex's reps, asking if they can attend. And the answer is almost always the same. Don't let them in. Don't make it weird. Why? Because no one wants to be dragged into the chaos. Meghan's brand has become radioactive, unpredictable. The same energy that fueled headlines now repels them. One producer called it PR quicksand. You think she's bringing press? She's really bringing problems. And the worst part? Meghan knows it. She's been through this once before, in Hollywood's first round, long before Harry. Her name was always 2 steps behind the casting list. She clawed her way up the industry's lower ranks, only to be quietly pushed out. She reinvented herself through royalty. And now, history is repeating itself. Except this time, there's more to lose, because the people slamming the doors aren't just publicists or stylists. It's the power brokers. The same names who once hosted her at private dinners are now ghosting her team. Calls go unanswered. Brands pull back. Even Netflix, once her golden goose, has grown distant. Insiders say the streaming giant was not pleased with the reception of her recent projects and are now re-evaluating the relationship. And Harry, he's not helping. In fact, some say his visible decline is accelerating the fallout. No one wants to touch a brand that feels unstable, especially one so deeply tied to legal rumors, emotional spirals, and internal drama. The Sussex name was supposed to be a new Camelot. Instead, it's becoming a cautionary tale. And with their social status evaporating, some insiders believe Meghan's next chapter will be desperation branding. More shock, more provocation, more calculated controversy. But there's one thing even she might not be prepared for, and it's coming from the most unexpected place of all, from someone no longer alive, yet still very much capable of shaking the entire story. When a royal speaks, it makes headlines. But when someone speaks from beyond the grave, and their words cut straight through the palace walls, that's when things start to tremble. and that's exactly what's happening now.
She can use Princess Diana all she wants to generate press for her ratty little rosé, but Princess Diana would not respect Meghan Markle in a million years.
Lady Elizabeth Anson wasn't just another blue-blooded footnote in the royal family tree. She was the late Queen Elizabeth's first cousin, her closest confidante, her best friend. They spoke weekly, shared secrets, finished each other's sentences. For decades, Anson was a quiet witness to the monarchy's most private moments, always loyal, always discreet, until now, because recently released memoir tapes recorded before her passing have surfaced, and what's inside them, absolutely devastating for Meghan Markle. According to excerpts leaked to 2 veteran royal reporters, Lady Elizabeth confided that the Queen never believed Meghan truly loved Harry. She used the word engineered, as in Meghan engineered the entire relationship, the whirlwind romance, the carefully framed engagement, the royal wedding spectacle, all of it, the Queen reportedly believed was a maneuver, a strategy, a way in. Let that sink in. Because this isn't coming from a distant critic or internet theorist. This is from the woman Queen Elizabeth trusted most, a woman who had nothing to gain and no motive to lie. And these are not statements taken out of context. They were recorded calmly, clearly, and with one purpose: to set the record straight before it was too late. Lady Anson went further, according to those familiar with the tapes. She claimed the Queen was deeply hurt in her final months, that Harry, under Meghan's influence, had become aggressive, reportedly even yelling at Her Majesty on the phone during one tense 10-minute call. She described Meghan as dismissive and secretive, particularly around the wedding dress scandal, and said the Queen sensed the mask slipping, and if the Queen knew something was off, what else might she have shared with Charles, or with William? One royal commentator put it bluntly: this changes the narrative completely, because if even the Queen believed it was all a game, the public might finally give themselves permission to believe it too. And that's what has the Sussex brand rattled. Not lawsuits, not headlines. Legacy, because Meghan's power play has always depended on her controlling the story of Diana, of love, of betrayal. But now, one voice she can't silence is speaking louder than ever, and it's coming from the very top of the royal pyramid. The palace has of course declined to comment, but behind the scenes the reaction is reportedly intense, because if these tapes continue to leak and more segments emerge, Meghan's claim to victimhood may collapse under the weight of royal memory, and that memory lingers. But while one narrative begins to crack, another one quietly takes shape. Rumors are gaining traction, contracts being reviewed, lawyers are watching, and the whispers about divorce, once brushed off as tabloid fluff, are suddenly starting to sound very, very real. The whispers have turned into murmurs, and now those murmurs are circling lawyers. That's how fast things are moving behind closed doors. What once sounded like reckless tabloid clickbait, Harry and Meghan headed for divorce, has allegedly become a real conversation, not a public fight, not a tabloid stunt, a quiet, calculated negotiation. And the people in the room, some of them have been preparing for this moment for months. Sources in London's legal world have confirmed it. Harry has allegedly begun making discreet inquiries through third-party contacts, not directly, not formally, but enough to signal that the idea is on the table. One firm, known for handling ultra-private aristocratic splits, has reportedly been contacted under a client pseudonym, and according to one well-placed insider, they're preparing for a long-game custody, assets, and how to unwind the brand without mutual destruction. Because make no mistake, this isn't just a breakup, it's a potential implosion of a multi-million-dollar, globally known narrative.
Developing today, fury that Prince Harry, Meghan Markle, Archie and Lilibet have been put at the center of King Charles's new funeral plans.
Harry and Meghan have built a business, a persona, a movement around the image of unified rebellion. If that shatters, it's not just hearts that break, it's contracts. There's Arcuel, joint ventures with publishers, their image licensing deals, Netflix's lingering obligations. Even the Spotify exit still has unresolved clauses. If a divorce goes public, everything gets messier. And for Meghan, insiders say that chaos could be the plan. Here's where it gets even more volatile. Multiple commentators are now floating the theory that Meghan may already be prepping her next act, a solo memoir, one that reframes everything, from the first royal meeting, to the wedding tears, to the Oprah bombshell, and allegedly, her side of the end. One ghostwriter told a publishing executive that Meghan's camp has been testing titles that include words like betrayal, truth, and unsettlingly freedom. The implication? She's already decided to go scorched earth. But that comes with risks, because Harry has his own story. And while he may seem fragile right now, those closest to him say there's a breaking point. If Meghan pushes too far, says too much, or tries to frame herself as the only victim, he might finally fight back. And here's where the alleged compromat becomes the ticking time bomb. If Meghan really does have those files, those recordings, those photos, those explosive private moments, then she holds the ultimate weapon, not just to control the narrative, but to control the outcome. One royal advisor, speaking off record, said it best: If this is heading toward divorce, then we're not just dealing with heartbreak, we're dealing with reputational warfare, and whoever moves first wins. The Sussex brand was once sold as a love story, but behind the scenes, insiders say it's become a chessboard. Every move matters, every silence is loaded, and the final checkmate, it may come not in a courtroom, but in a leak. Because if the palace gets word that Meghan's preparing to drop the first piece of her insurance file, it could trigger a response no one expects. And that leads us to one terrifying question. What happens if she actually releases it? Every palace hallway has its own rhythm. Staff chatter, footsteps echoing across centuries-old floors, the gentle hum of polished control. But lately, there's something different in the air, a tension that no one dares name, because the question looming over Buckingham, over Kensington, over every tight-lipped press secretary and shaken aide is simple and terrifying. What happens if Meghan pulls the trigger? Not metaphorically, literally. What if she releases the thing everyone's been whispering about? The alleged footage, the photos, the emails, the audio, the so-called vault of compromat that some insiders believe has been curated, protected, and threatened in silence. Until now, it wouldn't take much. A single clip, a screen recording, a Dropbox link sent to one well-placed journalist. That's all it would take to detonate the monarchy's carefully managed image and rip the Sussex story wide open. Because this isn't the kind of content you can spin with a polite palace statement. It's not a TikTok rumor or an anonymous source. If the material is real, and that's still a massive if, it could destroy more than just reputations. It could expose vulnerabilities the royals have spent decades hiding. And that's what makes it so dangerous. Because if Meghan is cornered, financially, socially, legally, what does she really have left to lose? According to one media insider with connections on both sides of the Atlantic, the whispers of emergency meetings have already begun. Advisors running simulations, legal teams reviewing NDAs and crisis playbooks, PR firms preparing pre-written responses, just in case. And perhaps most chillingly, a plan to revoke titles. Yes, you heard that right. Palace sources say there is now active discussion about stripping Harry and Meghan of their Duke and Duchess designations if the rumored evidence ever sees daylight. That move, once unthinkable, is suddenly being treated as a final defensive play, a way of signaling to the world that the crown draws the line no matter the fallout. But even that might be too late, because some insiders fear the worst-case scenario is already unfolding, that Meghan wants the explosion, that she sees it as inevitable, even empowering, that in a world where she's losing access, losing favor, and possibly losing Harry himself, her final act could be to burn the whole structure down and walk away from the ashes as a truth-teller. And Harry, he may be the fuse. Some believe he has no idea what's coming. Others say he knows exactly what she's capable of, and is too paralyzed to stop it. Whether by guilt, loyalty, fear, or something darker, his silence is now seen by many as complicity. But if the detonation comes, he's going down with it. So now the palace waits, the press waits, even Hollywood waits. And everyone is wondering the same thing. Is this the calm before the storm, or has the countdown already begun? Drop your thoughts below. Like, subscribe, and stay tuned. The next video on your screen is waiting, and trust me, you won't believe what's coming next.